correctly with the correct amount.
Lance King has been a part of many album projects during his career, sharing his voice and other talents of songwriting, artwork, production, arrangement, and mastering, and helping indie bands get their albums to print and distribution. He is no stranger to the music industry. Lance is a vocalist, keyboardist, superb guitarist, producer, engineer, label owner, distribution, online store, radio personality, and festival promoter. Lance has his own syndicated radio show called The Shop, which our audience can tune into on metalexpressradio.com. Lance King is the CEO and owner of Nightmare Records, a melodic power and progressive metal label. He licenses and distributes internationally with SPV, COT, Century Media, and many others. Log on to nightmarerecords.com and join the great interactive social networking site. Hi, Tina here, journalist for HMTV Canada. Please welcome Lance King, CEO of Nightmare Records. Hi, Lance. It's an honor having you on our show here today. Can you tell us a little bit about your company, Nightmare Records?
Well, Nightmare has been around for, I guess we're coming up on 20 years, and started out as kind of a project for just to get my music out there, and then I turned it into helping with local friends that were musicians getting their music out there as a kind of a distribution network, and then I kind of built on that, and it became more national, and branched out into international, and it just keeps growing. A lot of bands signed from all around the world, from Australia and Brazil and European countries, quite a few Scandinavian bands. I tend to lean a little bit more towards the technical and melodic side of things. I really like Swedish and Scandinavian metal. Lots of really talented people up there that I guess their music just tends to resonate more with me. I don't know why. But that's it in a nutshell. Nightmare is here basically to bring the world underground greatness that's being overlooked by the major labels, and help independent artists and smaller labels to get their stuff out there.
What I couldn't believe on your main website, nightmarerecords.com, was the fact that how hard this label works to promote their artists. You have a radio show called The Shop, and it's syndicated to 5 stations currently?
It's right now it's with... We just lost a couple stations that went off the air, so, and then at the same time we gained a couple. So we're actually sitting at 8 or 9 stations at the moment.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's still growing. We've done 61 episodes. Actually today I have to work on a new one, so that it'll air tomorrow. I pre-do the show, I pre-record it, and then upload it to all these websites, and they play it throughout the week. Primarily, most of the show started as a Sunday show on Metal Express Radio. So there are more shows on Sunday, but it does play throughout the week. Check the links on the site and find a daily schedule. And I basically just focus on the artists that we're working with on the label or through the distribution network that are kicking my ass that week. The newer stuff is, the primary focus, but we bring in a few of the older tracks too to just bring awareness to some of the things that have been overlooked,
Mm-hmm.
the new audience that might have missed something.
Now, you usually put on a lot of tours for your artists.
Those are tough these days, and as a smaller label, that's always a challenge. We're obviously trying. That would be a great thing to be able to really solidify as a great touring network. And so, I haven't quite figured out that whole end of the spectrum yet. It's primarily hooking up, I think, with the right agency, and then more national and international tours that come through, trying to get the artists onto those tours, which these days is extremely expensive because most of the headline tours are not making a lot of money. Draws are down considerably, so it tends to be where smaller bands need to actually do what they call a buy-on.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's happened for a long time through the scene. Something that probably most laymen are not aware of, but it's a costly thing for smaller bands.
Okay. You got Nightmare Metal Fest coming up. Can you tell us about that event?
Well, at the moment, I've done that for a couple years in a row, and usually it's a springtime event in a different city. But this year I decided that I wasn't going to try and buck spring break and South by Southwest and all the other things going on that, during the time that I was normally doing it, which was our spring break here. I have a couple of kids, and so we were kind of turning that into a vacation and going down to Florida. I did a show there, and then in San Antonio did a show there. But it turns out that I think that's probably not the best time to do it. So this year we put it off, and we're going to do it probably in August or September or possibly October. The flights are cheaper in the off season for people coming in from out of town, and I'm not sure that I'm necessarily going to gear it towards an international audience this time. Focus on a local market, the Twin Cities metropolitan area where we're based out of, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and so I don't know, just looking at trying to track down the right headliners for the show right now, and that's the key, is getting the right headliners, I think. And they may or may not be on Nightmare. I don't really think that's important. What's important is to have a great band that people are going to want to see, and will help draw a lot of people out to see other great bands that they may be unaware of.
Do you usually sponsor like Rocklahoma, the Vans Warped Tour, or Metal Mayhem?
I did sponsor Rocklahoma one year. We purchased a rather substantial side stage that was about 150 feet wide by 75 feet deep, and had a monstrously flown array of speakers and lighting. And had David Prater running the sound. David Prater produced, he used to be the drummer for, oh boy, I'm having a brain fart right now.
That's okay.
Bad. Well, he produced like the first Dream Theater album, and he's produced a lot of other albums that are highly regarded, and he's a great musician himself. And he was running sound for a lot of the bands on our stage. It was kind of interesting. It was kind of fun. At the end of the day, we had a rather catastrophic storm hit Rocklahoma, and it actually knocked both of these huge side stages down.
Wow.
Totaled out a lot of gear, and had some issues with trying to get money back from festivals insurance. They basically blew us off and said it was an act of God, and we didn't need to figure that all out, and there were a lot of bands that were kind of bummed about that and kind of screwed out of their spot to play the next day.
Wow.
So I guess I had a bad taste in my mouth and didn't want to go back and do that again, since they didn't handle it in a way I appreciated. So I haven't been a part of that festival since.
There's something new on the website that I'm curious about. It's called Nightmare at Sea. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Nightmare at Sea was a plan that I wanted to implement. Actually, I started planning it in the middle of 2008, and the concept was that we were going to do progressive metal cruise, but probably have some more mainstream hard rock and metal bands as well, and just have a fun party on a boat. Concept was probably going to be a little more theme oriented, where we would have some cool pirate type metal and have people dress up if they want. But with the economy being what it has been, and the huge costs of doing such an event, I talked to my partners, and I decided that it was probably better if we held it off for a year or two and see what happens with the economy, because the cost of the ticket for this alone, without flights, coming from other parts of the world, would probably be a base rate of about $650 per person, and that's pretty spendy to bite off right now. Mm-hmm. So I mean, all things would be inclusive. Obviously, there'd be huge amounts of food, and all your accommodations would be taken care of, and you'd have a great party in a tropical area, and it would be pretty awesome.
For sure.
But the problem was, I just didn't think people were ready to commit that kind of money to that at this particular time. So one of my partners decided to go out and do that on their own, and that was what the Triton Power Cruise was to be. And unfortunately, that's been canceled.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Some health issues.
Yeah.
So, Nightmare at Sea is basically a concept that hasn't really come to fruition yet. It's one of those things where I'm holding it off and hope that things will turn around and the economy will get better. And I'm not even going to get into politics on it because
Okay.
we could talk for hours on that. So
Oh, for sure.
I'm not gonna go
I realize
there,
that. But I'm curious.
things will turn around and
Yeah.
people will start making money again and feel that they can go out and have a good time.
I'm curious, what's selling strongly right now? Is it digital downloads or is it CDs?
Digital downloads are definitely on the rise. I think that the cost effectiveness of this is and the popularity of the iPod and iTunes and a lot of that has been a huge driving force in that. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. I mean, digital sales, they do not have the fidelity of a CD, but CDs don't have the fidelity of a record. I mean, the albums that they used to produce, records, vinyl as we call them, had a far wider spatial spectrum of sonic noise that would come through. People don't really realize that. They think, oh, CDs sound really crisp, and yeah, they're good. They're good. They're just not as wide a bandwidth, and they are less destructible than vinyl was.
Right.
But CDs are far superior to downloads.
Mm-hmm.
As far as MP3s go, there's lots less compression, lots more dynamics, lots more frequency spectrum, and lots more spaciousness when you listen to them, in a good system. But, when you got them plugged into your ears that close of a range,
Yeah.
MP3s sound pretty good.
Yeah, that's right.
They do. I enjoy them.
When it comes to vinyl, do you usually produce X number of vinyl copies as promos for like a music festival?
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of times, there's different kinds of sponsorship deals, and a lot of times we have made sampler CDs for festivals in the past. With Nightmare, sampler CDs are pretty expensive to produce, so we've gone to download albums on our website, which seem to deliver the goods in a much cheaper way. You don't have to pay for them on either end of the spectrum, so it gets the music out there farther and wider. And so we've kind of gone that route lately, and it's making a lot more sense with the way things are right now with the economy. And honestly, you can get a lot more downloads in a short period of time than you can give away CDs.
Right. I wanted to get into some of the artwork I've seen on your website. You go through pictures and pictures, and it's just great. I love the artwork coming out of these albums. Do you design the artwork yourself?
No, not for the most part. Originally, when I started Nightmare, there was a time where I had a brokerage for CD manufacturing. I would help indies with that kind of thing, and I did end up doing probably about 200 CD layouts myself over the years, but I haven't done that in quite some time. There's no way I could keep up with it, so I have people that are much better at it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And there are several artists well known around the world that are known for their work with metal bands that a lot of the bands utilize, and they're just amazing talents. Just question that the artwork is really important, I think, with a CD.
It is. Like, you go on your website and it seems like more of an art gallery than it is a record store.
Yeah.
It's true, because you got lots of fantastic artwork that seems to tell a story with every new album that you have posted.
I'm kind of into the visual aspects of the expression of art. So when we did the website, the latest website, worked very closely with a web designer who, in her own right, is a fantastic artist, and she's been doing quite a bit to make the site look artistic and functional. Yeah, form over function, really. I mean, it's working hand in hand, so that cool elements, not just visually, but that they work. Play a video or play a sound sample, and the player looks cool, but it works well, and all those kinds of things are tying it all in. And it's come together real nice. I like the site a lot.
Oh, for sure. I noticed you had charts on your website. Are these charts the bands that are getting the most airplay or the most selling digital downloads?
As You mean on the front page where they're kind of listed, and
Right, yeah.
typically that is kind of an area that's the most recently added
Okay.
to things, and then we'll have like a featured artist section where we'll kind of change that up variably, and put different bands in there. We used to have a function on the site that was stating who the top sellers were, and it wasn't working properly when we had the MP3s. We started adding downloads in, so all the MP3s weren't being counted as albums, or when we added that function, all of a sudden other albums weren't. I can't remember how it worked, but basically that function stopped working when we added MP3 stuff.
Okay.
So we just took it off, and like a couple months later, I'm like, why is that still the top-selling album? That's not right. We looked closer at it, and sure enough, it just wasn't working after we added the MP3s. Anyway,
Wow. So are you into just taking in metal bands, or can other bands come to you for airplay, or to look at getting signed to Nightmare Records, such as classic rock or a heavy metal rock band?
That's a very good question. The label's primarily niched in the progressive power metal and thrash kind of melodic technical forms of metal. And anything that kind of makes me go wow as a musician. The distribution side of it is pretty much anything from rock to as heavy as you want to go. If it's good, if it's quality, if it's done, if it's well recorded, and another criteria that I personally have is that I personally don't want to perpetuate any negativity in music. So that if a band is preaching hate or anti-religious views or a lot of different things that I just find negative, I probably won't work with them. It's their right to do whatever they want to do, but it's my right to not be okay with it. It's something that I'm promoting to the world, so I tend to focus only on positive metal.
Okay. Is Nightmare based out of Europe as well?
Nightmare has a lot of distribution contacts and promotional contacts in Europe. We don't have an actual base there.
Okay.
It's all run out of the Twin Cities, but have a lot of partners out there helping us.
That's good to know, for sure. So if you're looking for an artist, like what do you look for as a real potential to make you say wow? If it was a classic rock band coming your way, what particular, is it the sound, or is it lyrics and sound that would attract you to that classic rock artist?
Well, it's really a combination of all elements. I mean, it's the whole package. So if the band is writing good material, they're playing it really well. They recorded it well, so the production sounds great. I'm getting a feeling from it when I listen to it that I know they were enjoying. When you listen to something and when the musician is enjoying playing versus just kind of going through the motion. The intent behind it when they create it, I pick up on. I'm listening. Those are the things that I listen for when I see it. Obviously, the presentation of the artwork, I think, is important. And, a lot of times I don't even necessarily go to the lyrics if I'm getting a good feel from an album. But if there's something that feels weird about it, I might read the lyrics just to see where they're coming from.
Okay. Yeah, because in Canada, we got a diverse music scene from metal to most of it is classic rock. And a lot of the indie bands coming out of Canada are classic rock.
If you look at what we're doing,
yeah,
Nightmare is pretty much taken up the reins of where 80s metal might have gone, hard rock and metal might have gone. And we do some retro stuff too that sounds right in, the old school stuff that was popular then. Distribute several labels along that line, and but primarily it's just the players that are still doing that sort of thing that we're into. It's not a place to hear new metal necessarily. I mean, there's some that might consider some of the things that we're putting out kind of that thing, but I think that the major labels have that covered. They're putting out the processed cheese spread that everybody being forced to accept on mainstream radio, and I kind of am the antithesis of generic, I guess. I'm trying to do something that I like. And
well, a like on mainstream radio here, a lot of Metallica, White Lion, and Def Leppard still get airplay here.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Metallica should. I mean, they're a
Yeah.
great band. White Lion, on the other hand, I'm not such a proponent of. No, nothing against the band. They wrote some good songs back in the day, but I guess I haven't listened to anything that they've put out recently.
I was listening to some of your music, and I was just, wow, your vocals are great. And I can't pick a favorite album because I like all of them, but what really caught my eye was Avian, Ashes to Madness, and Pyramaze, Legend to the Bone Cover, which came out in
Legend to
2000.
the Bone Cover, yeah.
2006. I really, if I had to pick a favorite song, I think I picked out three of them: Power of Imagination, Lost and Forsaken, and What Lies Beyond. Now, you've produced a lot of albums. Is there any favorite album that that's in your collection as one of your favorites or you're most proud of?
That I've been a part of, you mean?
Yes.
Well, yeah, there are a couple of favorites. I would say my top three would probably be Balance of Power, Perfect Balance, Pyramaze, Legend of the Bone Carver, and probably Avian, Ashes of Madness. There are those three. There are a lot of other albums that I've been a part of that, musically speaking and production-wise, that are quite good and certainly worthy of your time, but those are my personal faves.
Do you produce all your own albums, like mix and master them?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
How about
Been a part of that from a lot of them, but certainly not anywhere near the majority of them. There are a lot of gifted producers out there that are helping bands, and a lot of bands are self-producing things that are fantastic as well. And really, it's just a matter of getting my attention. If it's a new artist that wants to submit something, they send me an MP3 or they send me a link to a MySpace that I can check out a couple of tracks. Then I'll ask for more if I like what I hear, and it'll continue to go back and forth until we've either come to an agreement or we haven't. So
Okay.
kind of works that way. A lot of times I just don't have the time to go out and search for great bands. Unfortunately, I'm waiting for them to come to me. So that definitely helps if you're patient and proactive to get my attention.
Out of all your albums, do you write the lyrics for the majority of them?
Are you talking about the lyrics for my personal music?
Yes.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that, but honestly, at a certain point, I became so busy with Nightmare that when I joined Balance of Power in 1998, they had a singer who had written all the lyrics for the first album that I did with them, and that was Book of Secrets. And so I came in and I just interpreted the songs the way that I heard them melodically, and everybody was pretty happy with that, and they fit it together with what the previous singer had done for backups as well, and we kind of layered it all together. It was like, wow, that sounds pretty cool. And so Balance Power actually continued to work with Tony, the previous singer, in a writing capacity, since they were all over in the UK. Then they would just send me music and lyrics, and I would kind of do my thing and kind of work it out that way. So I was really contributing just my melodies, and once in a while, if there was something that I thought could be added, I'd change some things around, sometimes add some musical parts. Did the same thing with Pyramaze, and it worked really well. It was certainly easier for me to do because I guess melody is my gift, and I've learned to be a good lyricist as well. When I first started this, I was co-writing the music and doing all the lyrics, and I'll be honest, lyrics were more of a bit more of a burden for me in the beginning. They seem to flow really nicely these days. I've got a lot more experiences in life, I guess, and it seems a lot easier to write lyrics these days than it did when I was first starting in music in the early 80s and things. It was much more burdenous.
When you write your lyrics, what inspires you? Is it stuff that you feel strongly about that you see in the media, or it's just
Well, lately,
yeah,
it's been a lot more of that. Lately, I've not been so afraid to write about my feelings about politics and religion and things of that nature, where those have been kind of taboo sources of discussion and certainly taboo in music
think that the audience is more open-minded today than what they were in the 80s?
Absolutely. Well, that's a hard question, actually, now that I think about it. I think that in the 80s, there was a lot of great music.
Mm-hmm.
And it ranged greatly in all directions, but primarily there was a hard rock element and a happy, uplifting party element about it that made it fun. And I think that was a really great time in America and in the world. I think people were very happy, it seems, in the 80s. And in the 90s, there seemed to be this huge, I don't know, I would call it more negative vibe that came out of music and kind of depressed and whiny. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what the undercurrents of how that all came about are on a bigger scale, but I noticed it for sure, and the music definitely changed. And in the new, millennium, things are coming around again, and they're more positive and pretty heavy. It seems that now, I guess, perhaps they are more open-minded now.
They seem to speak freely more about religion and what's going on with the world and the media.
I definitely think there's a lot more open communication.
Mm-hmm. With the internet.
Oh, yeah, and I think that because of the ability of all the social networking out there, I for one, with Facebook, just started connecting with people not too long on Facebook, but before that I used MySpace and then got into Twitter a little bit, and both of those forums I was a little more hesitant to let loose with everything, but Facebook seemed to hold nothing back. I just let it all hang out.
It seems to be fun on Facebook.
Interesting, because you get a lot of feedback from people.
Oh, you do? More than you would on MySpace.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to find out, you find out a lot about your friends, you find out a lot about other people that have associations with and what their opinions are on things. And I think it's great if you can open up a dialogue of respectful communication where people are talking about these things and not getting, name calling or calling people stupid or doing all of the typical things that are associated with why people don't want to talk about the taboo subjects.
Yeah, I get you on that one.
People respect and have some respectful communication, and it's great. You can actually learn a lot and have great conversations and counterpoint stuff.
And what I like about Facebook, they have so many applications that you can create a comedy show just on your page.
Yeah, I stay away from all the apps myself. They tend to dig into your whole, they just open up all kinds of doors in your computer that you probably don't want opened. But
yeah, that's true.
I'm kind of careful about that stuff.
That doesn't scare me one bit, because what are they going to find? Nothing but interviews.
Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know. If people start digging around on computer, it's more that you can end up with viruses and things.
Yeah, that's right. You got to have a good antivirus.
They're useless than it is that they're stealing anything that's of any value. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I like this. People like to mess with you.
Oh, there's lots of them out there. You just got to be careful.
For some reason, yeah. So I just figure that the less of that open yourself up to, the less of it you'll have to deal with.
That's right. With Nightmare Records, what's your goals for the future? Things you want to accomplish?
My goals for the future: continue to do what I'm doing and just make it grow into a bigger and better situation for the artists and label to grow together and spread good music farther and wider to more people, I guess, is really the only goal. Goal is to grow and to spread the music.
I sure hope things get better so that we can see Nightmare Records and some of these artists come to Canada and play live. That would be exceptional.
That would be.
Yeah,
That would be a lot of fun. Love to do that.
Before we wrap things up, Lance, is there anything you'd like to shout out or say to your fans?
Oh boy, that's a good question right there. Thanks for the support. That's really the only thing I can say is thanks. Thanks for the people that have been there and checking out the tunes, and I hope that a few new people that may have heard this that didn't know about Nightmare Records check out nightmarerecords.com and listen to some of the great bands we have, and about it.
Thank you, Lance, for taking the time out of your busy schedule for this interview. Horns high, you rock.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Thank you for the interview. It was a very, very nice interview.